Good evening, councillors, staff. Welcome to Agenda Forum. We welcome everybody watching on Council Cam. Agenda forums are specifically for agenda items which are to be considered by Council at the next ordinary meeting of Council. Agenda forums are not decision-making forums. They provide an opportunity for councillors to be equally informed and seek additional information on matters prior to the presentation of such matters to the next ordinary meeting of Council for formal consideration and decision. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed. The recording will also be archived and made available on the Council's website after the meeting. If you choose to participate in a meeting during public question time and deputation time, it is assumed that your consent is given for the audio to be recorded. Please keep your comments respectful to Council and members of the community. Visual images of the public will not be captured. Attendances and apologies. Mr. CEO, I don't think we have any. We're pretty much full roll call today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Leave of absence.
Oh, Councillor Podolny.
Councillor Podolny, that's right. She's taken some extra leave, I believe. There are no apologies. Members of public media. Declarations of financial and proximity interest and interest affecting impartiality, Mr. CEO.
Mr. Mayor, item B 3.6, Councillor Bryce Parry, that's the SAT reconsideration of refusal of proposed classroom additions in Caversham. He's declared it impartiality and has previously worked with the manager of the project. In item B, there's another one, B 3.5, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Andrew Kiley has declared an impartiality in item B 3.5 because of the construction of the timber fences and masonry wall at 79 James Street, Guildford. He's declared an impartiality as an executive of the Guildford Association. You may have contributed to a submission on this item. And the last one I have, Mr. Mayor, is from Councillor Charlie Zanino in relation to item C 1.4. It's a confidential item on the, it's an item on the Midland Oval Master Plan and Notice of Motion. He's declared an impartiality as his business partners own land on the Crescent Midland. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Councillor Richardson, you also have one?
Also for 3.5 for 79 James Street, so as a member of the GA and also a neighbour opposite.
Okay, and you'll submit a form to the CEO. Any further declarations to meet the staff and councillors? None, thank you. Public question time, questions relating to reports on the agenda. 5.1 is questions for which due notice has been given. Haven't been advised of any. 5.2, any questions from public on items on the agenda without notice? Nil. Reports and motions for which previous notice has been given. Presentations and deputations. Part A and the first item is item 3.6, the State Administrative Tribunal reconsideration of refusal of the proposed classroom additions to an existing place of worship at Lot 101, number 25, Suffolk Street, Caversham. And the first deputation is from Mr. Nick Hidding, the Director of Peter Webb and Associates, in support of the recommendation. He has also submitted a written one and he is here in person. Mr. Hidding, if you'd like to come to the microphone, turn it on. And
Quick question. That was a proximity declaration then?
Are you a neighbour?
Proximity. It's supposed to be proximity. Just want to clarify that.
Yes, for you, but I have the form, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Yep.
The CEO can help you with that. Okay. Carry on, Mr. Hidding, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, councillors and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name's Nick Hidding, Director of Peter Webb and Associates, the applicant representing the Chin Church in the SAT matter. My deputation relates to item 3.6, which is the reconsideration of the proposed classroom additions to the existing place of worship that is on site at 25 Suffolk Street in Caversham. We've reviewed officers' recommendation for approval and each of the proposed conditions. We have set out that the proposed development is an extension to the existing approved place of worship and is not a separate land use. And on this basis, the council has the ability under its town planning scheme to consider and approve the proposal. The Chin Church community is committed to undertaking the additional landscaping shown on the plans in order to create effective screening of the development, particularly when viewed from West Swan Road. And the community has actually commenced many of those plantings already, and this was shown in our submission. We provided a number of photographs. We thank the City for its recommendation for approval, and we support that. And each of the conditions, we support those, and we look forward to Council approving the application accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Short and sweet, Mr Hidding. Any questions of Mr Hidding, councillors? Well, we've got full staff question time coming up after deputation, so we can get stuck into them. Any questions of Mr Hidding, councillors? None? Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker on the item is the esteemed West Australian Senator, Senator Dean Smith. And Dean, welcome to our chamber.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I'd also like to make a dedication in regards to agenda item 3.6. Councillors, as I travel around Western Australia
Yeah, that's it.
Councillors, as I travel around Western Australia as a senator for Western Australia, I talk about the City of Swan in a very, very positive tone, and that's for two reasons. The stewardship this council places, the good stewardship this council places over much of the heritage precincts of this Guildford area and wider surrounds, and I compliment you on that. But the second and perhaps most important feature is the great work you do in making a new home for many new Australians. The Chin community is one of those communities. The Chin Christian Church has been practising or worshipping in Perth's eastern suburbs for over 20 years. In the last 4 years, it's been doing so in Caversham under my watchful eye. I'm a very strong and enthusiastic supporter of the Chin Christian Church, as I am of many other denominations that have chosen to make the City of Swan their home. Having read the work of officers and the recommendations in this matter, I can give you a very, very firm commitment on behalf of the Chin community that those landscaping considerations and recommendations in the officers' report will be upheld and will be implemented in full. The City of Swan can pride itself on how it is making itself a home for many, many new Australians. The Chin community and the future of the Chin community is one of those communities that you can be very, very proud of. Very proud of the contribution they make to your community. Many of their families live across your wards. They are more interested, enlivened as a result of the discussion we've been having about how they can extend their church to ensure their young children can get proper scholarship in values and religious tradition. I implore you to support the recommendation, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions of Senator Smith? Councillor Zanino? Senator, you have to come back to the microphone. They're going to grill you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Smith, just a quick couple of questions. The Chin Church, when they put the original application in, basically indicated that the church wouldn't be having more than, I think, and I can't remember the exact figure, it's about 100 to 150 people attending the congregation maximum. Can you explain to me why, if you've only got 100, 150 people attending maximum, why would they need 8 classrooms to use as kindergartens?
The Chin congregation in its totality is about 800 people. Only about 150 worship regularly or consistently at the Caversham site. If you've been there, Councillor Zanino, you will know that the Sunday school classes capture the attendance of very, very young children to children in their early teens. It is just not possible nor appropriate to be teaching children of different ages different spiritual lessons, hoping that they will understand them all at once. It is totally appropriate for a young child to be learnt about the story of, the donkeys, or story of Christmas, or story of Easter, in an area that might be surrounded with some of those visual depictions of those important religious stories. It's not appropriate for a young adult, for example, to have that religious instruction in exactly the same place as a 6 or 7 year old. So the construction of independent classrooms, I think, is very sensible and very necessary. If I had more time, Councillor Zanino, I'd invite you to come with me so that you could see these Sunday schools in action. They are well attended. The teachers are enthusiastic. The students are enthusiastic. The current arrangement doesn't allow for Sunday school class provision in a way that allows for proper instruction of young people.
Further question?
Further question. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but are you trying to tell me that you use the figure of 800? Are you telling me that the church is basically only for 100 or 150 congregation, but the kindergarten is going to cater for the wider community and going to attract over 800...
Absolutely not. Absolutely
well,
not.
why do they need the 8
The Roman
classrooms?
Catholic Church, councillors, has 1 billion people. No one suggests that 1 billion people attend Roman Catholic churches on every Sunday. That is absolutely not what I'm suggesting.
So why do they need the 8 classrooms? Why wouldn't 1 or 2 suffice?
Councillor Zanino, when you go down to the Caversham Chin Christian Church and you see the large group of young people getting their religious instruction on a Sunday morning, you will see for yourself how inappropriate, how unproductive it is for Sunday school children, ages young, 3, 6, 7, getting their religious instruction in the same place, interrupted by young adults. It is just not an appropriate way to do it. A better way to do it, and this is what the Australian government has recognised in providing the $400,000 for these classrooms, is that religious instruction that allows young people or people of different age groups to get it in a way that is tailored to their needs in privacy, uninterrupted by other classrooms, is a very, very sensible way to do it.
Questions? Councillor Richardson, you got a question?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to talk about the 150 congregation. At the moment, what is the total of the children attending from the youngest to the oldest?
The Chin Community Church this afternoon told me that there are approximately 100 young children. Mm-hmm.
What ages do they range from?
Well, I only know the ages because I've been down there and seen it for myself. I would say that they are. There is a modest group of very, very young children. The next largest group would be in their 9s to 13s, and then there would be a larger group than that that would be above 13 but below 17 or 18.
And just another question, and I look forward to coming down and actually attending one of the
I would like to be there with you. Yep.
That would be great. We're just trying to get an average of how many students per class. Do they have a maximum per class that's allowed with...
That I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McNamara.
Mm-hmm. That I don't know. At the moment, it's one or a number of teachers to very, very many students in one space. Yep.
Further questions, councillors? No.
Thank you again.
Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's the only in-person deputations we have today. We have received written deputations from Ms Sarah Howlett and Ms Lynn Deering on C1.4, the Midland Oval Master Plan, Sarah Howlett on C1.5, Toohey Gardens, and Sarah Howlett on C1.8, the Merrill Dinner. So now flick to questions of staff, and first up will be Mr Vanderlyn and Mr Russell. Firstly, Councillor, any questions on items 13.1 through 13.10? Councillor Kiley.
To Mr Vanderlyn, if he's available.
Yep, Mr Vanderlyn. Go ahead, Councillor.
Mr. Vanderlyn, the item 3.5 at 79 James Street, the fence. I'm just worried about the footings. There's not a very descriptive diagram on the for the footings for the said wall or the pillars. I'm just wondering if staff.
Excuse me, Councillor, just 1 second. Councillor Richardson. Excuse me, Councillor Richardson. For questions on this item, you need to leave the room. No. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, just some background, I suppose. I've got some concerns over walls that are moving in Guildford, brick walls that are quite high. I just want to be sure that staff are satisfied that the footings would be satisfactory for the wall.
Yeah, the footings will obviously be required to be constructed in line with the building codes when that is constructed. So that will be in place. Yes.
Thank you. That's all for that.
Any further questions on that particular item, councillors? I'll recall Councillor Richardson. If you could get Councillor back, please. Councillor Parry. Any other councillors on questions 13.1 through 13.10? Okay, Councillor Zanino.
I don't have any questions, Mr Mayor, but I'd like to let you know that item 13.3 and 3.6 I will be withdrawing.
Okay, right. We'll get down to those in a second. Okay, Councillor Colling.
Approvals under delegated authority. I'm just looking for the number there and what page it might be. I'm having a bit of trouble with my numbering on the...
Councillor Scott, at this point in time, we're just doing 13.1 through 13.2. We'll work through them in block.
Yes, there was on item... the pedestrian access way on item 4.1, that was for Jim Coton.
Yeah, Councillor, I'm going to work through the whole program, so I'm just asking for 13.1 through 13.10 at this point. So any further questions on that block, councillors? If not, any questions of either Mr Vandal or Mr Russell on 3.1 through 3.8? Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question to Mr Vanderlyn is regarding item 3.6. And what I'd like to ask is, today there was an announcement, a media release, I think, by Rita Safiotti, saying that there was a new Swan Valley planning bill. I want to ask if that will affect this decision we're making on 3.6.
At this stage it won't, because the bill is obviously not effective. It's not in place yet. It might take another year for that bill to become effective, so it won't.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Catalano, you had a question?
Yes. Thank you. Was in relation to the Bullsbrook rezoning. I noticed that there is a creek in the bottom part of the lot next to the highway that has some fairly sensitive environmental values in that it's Guildford soils type, of which there is only 10% left in the state. And I just wondered how that was going to be addressed. Basically, you know, how that was going to be addressed. Yes, thank you.
Mr Mayor, through you, at the moment what is in front of us is the scheme amendment. So the scheme amendment just identifies the area as being part of the urban residential development area. Subsequent to this scheme amendment, we will receive a structure plan for that area before it's developed, and that structure plan will identify the environmental sensitivities around the brook, and it will be then clarified through that process.
And is that the same for the block that's to the east of it, of the one that's facing the highway or adjacent to the highway? Will there also be similar considerations or be made for that group of trees that are on that block?
Lots to the east.
Mr. Mayor, through you, I take that the question relates to a property to the east of the site that we're talking about, and that forms part of this scheme amendment. So if the property is part of the area that's covered by the scheme amendment, the same will apply.
Councillor Parry?
Just one very quick question. Can councillors please refer to page 189 in the agenda? You to Mr. Van der Linde. I just read a quote. That is, so point 41, that is, the incidental use must form part or naturally attached to the dominant use. This is in relation to the SAT refusal. In the City of Swan v Taylor, that determination whether a use is incidental requires the identification of predominant use and a determination of whether the proposed use is consequent on such a use or natural attaching, or relating to such a use. In my view, there must be a relationship of connection between the two uses for one to be incidental to the other. So my question is this: do you believe that the Sunday school is incidental to the church or the place of worship?
It is incidental, definitely incidental to the church. It's the church-goers' kids that will be taught in the Sunday school, so it is incidental from that perspective. And in terms of the provisions of approval, conditions of approval that is proposed, there's a specific condition also that it be used in such a manner.
Okay, further question?
That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Catalano?
Yes, I've also got a question about the Harrow Street proposal. And now, it wasn't 100% clear to me.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, could Councillor Catalano indicate the item?
Oh, yes,
so we can
okay.
find it in the agenda.
So that one is...
3.7. 3.7.
3.7, yes, thank you. So that the main thing I didn't really understand from the drawings that were provided was, is all this development going to take place? I noticed that there's a lot of building that's going to take place, as outlined on page... Oh, well, there's quite a lot of stuff, but let's just say page 211, 13, 15. There's a big diagram of quite a lot of building going on, and I just didn't know how that related to page, the previous page, that's 214. Like, I can see by looking at the maps that there's this big oval area to the east of what used to be the old Kalunga School. Okay. Now, are they going to build on the oval, or are they going to actually build... It's just not clear to me where they're actually going to build on this site from the maps that are kind of given here. And I'd just like to be a little... Because there was some... In the submissions raised, there was quite a bit of concern about trees being lost, and the proponent goes, oh, there's no way that trees are going to be lost. But then I'd look at the map and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, if all this building's going to go right down near Harrow Road, then there's actually going to be quite a lot of trees lost. So I just want some clarification as to exactly where this building parcel is, and whether there's going to be trees lost.
Mr. Russell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you have a look at the maps, if you look at the first map, if you turn to the map here that has the site plan, orientated Harrow Street at the bottom.
Page 214.
That would be right, Mr. Yes. 214 and 215. You can see there with the orientation due north. Then you can see the distance from the boundary. Yes, the location is going to be effectively where that where the oval area is. You can see we've got a distance of about 12 metres from the indicated here from the driveway. but it's going to be, it's in that area there. You can see that they're depicted on the plan of page 215 trees. The trees are not proposed to be cleared for any declarations. So those trees you can see on the eastern side around the oval on the aerial are the trees that are depicted along the side on the plan on 215 that are on the eastern side. So that's the location. I accept that perhaps the set of plans that proponents provided could have been better in terms of making it very clear on our overall site plan the location, but that is the location of where we're going. They've indicated to me they're not removing any of those Korean trees.
Thank you, Mr Russell. Further question, Councillor?
Yes, thanks. So I just noticed if I look on page 200, I mean, I'm bringing this up because actually I am actually quite concerned about the loss of trees in the city in general, but also in particular in the Swan Valley. And we've had that recent one to do with Campersick Road, and I believe we've got issues coming up that people have made me aware of trees being cleared on Walcott Avenue. So I just wanted to draw your attention to page 200. If on the side of that oval there doesn't appear to be any trees, so if I look down a little bit on that aerial map, I can kind of see trees at the bottom, and I'm thinking, is that where the buildings are going to go? So that I don't quite understand how they're going to get away with not removing trees. And I wondered if there's any way that we can make sure that there won't be any tree removals, other than the proponent telling us that they won't. But I mean, is that what happens if they go ahead and do it anyway?
Perhaps I could help you there, Mr Russell. Councillor, if you take page, this page. Right.
That's 214.
Okay.
214.
So take that page. Okay. Take it like that and insert it that way. So that is that block there. So
I understand
those trees,
that.
you see that there.
Yeah, but if you have a look at 214, you can see that there's no trees on the eastern boundary of that map.
There's none on the eastern boundary there either, on the aerial.
They're under the red line. Well, the red line is the boundary.
Well, they may be on next door neighbour's property.
Through Mr. Mayor,
Mr Russell?
In avoidance of any confusion, quite simple, I will request that the proponent provides a very clear indication on an aerial, the location of where these facilities are on an aerial like that.
Yep.
A decent size, without the red line, we'll be able to very clearly see without any ambiguity or confusion.
That'd be good. Thank you, Mr Russell.
You'll email it to us, will you? Great. Thank you for that.
Okay. Councillor, any further questions on 3.1 through 3.8? Councillor Kiley.
On item 3.8, statutory planning decisions on page 218, I just want some clarification around clearance of conditions. It doesn't give me enough information to understand what that actually means. On the first page on 221, I just want to know what clearance of conditions actually mean.
Okay, 221 on one particular item.
There's a series of them there from in the Altone ward, which is the sort of.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 11.
Mr Russell.
I'm looking at page 221, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, which is the query?
There's a list of them after, probably about the 10th on the list.
Yes, okay, right, yes, okay. Yep. Those are subdivision clearances or subdivision approvals where applicants lodge the clearances with us for endorsement of the positive plan and diagram of the survey. So those are clear and understandable practice. That means that we issue a clearance under conditions that the WA Planning Commission has indicated is our responsibility to submit confirmation of clearance is done by us, and those are all done by delegation.
Through you, Mayor. So the subdivision two lots is basically the same as, is that an approval of the subdivision as opposed to clearance of conditions for subdivision?
No, through Mr. Mayor, the clearance is post-approval by the Commission. It is post-approval where they've got the conditions relevant conditions that we are responsible for clearing have been cleared. So it's not a decision to approve, it is a clearance post an approval.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. Back to the 3.7. The information we have in our hard copy is different to the information that we received online through Broadbooks. And what I really want to get down to is the differences. On page 207 of Broadbooks, there's some information that I believe shouldn't be there. So I want to ask the question, is that actually online, or is it only us that received it?
207 online or 207 in the printed book?
What we have in our Broadbooks. The question is that what's online, or is that what only we have received?
Mr. Russell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that is online. What you see in your board books is what is online, yes.
Yeah, Councillor.
So I'll ask then that page 207 be removed because it identifies certain people within the community.
Mr. Russell?
I have become aware of that, Mr. Mayor. The hard copy I have, the material as attachments is not the same that you have on board books or is online. If it is, and there was a query I had asked with council's support, is it possible for material that is posted online to be subsequently removed from the online agenda? It was indicated to me it was not clear that it was possible for us to do that. If it is possible for us to do that, then yes, it can be removed if that is the request.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Russell. Any other questions?
That's effectively what I'm asking. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Kiley?
Thank you, Mayor. On item 4.1, on page 224, it starts closure of pedestrian access.
We're still dealing with 3.1 to 3.8.
Oh,
so
still,
just stay with
okay.
us, will you? Okay. So any questions on 3.1, 3.8? Okay. Councillor Zanino has indicated he's going to withdraw for a recommendation 3.6. Anyone else wishing to withdraw an item on between 3.1 and 3.8? No? Okay. That takes us down to any questions, councillors, on either of the C1.2 to 1.5? Councillor Johnson, question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, my questions are about my motion C1.4. Just like to start by thanking Mr. van der Linde for his excellent report explaining the impact. I'd just like to ask some questions about Area 3. So I have asked Mr. van der Linde some of these questions before the meeting, councillors. So what is the area of Area 3 in square metres?
Mr. van der Linde?
Mr. Mayor, through you. Area 3's area is unknown. Area 3 is an area that's been indicated by Councillor Johnson on a diagrammatical sketch. So it's difficult to determine the actual size of Area 3. What I've done is I've did a very rough calculation, and that should then be in the order of 300 square metres. But it's very inaccurate, I would say.
That's great. That's the exact number I got as well when I guesstimated it. And what would the approximate value of that be?
The value as per the sale of and development agreement that we have with the proponent on the site, it was $963 per square metre. So that on 300 square metres, that would equate. Okay, sorry. Yep.
Sorry about that.
So.
I just want to clarify, Mr. Mayor, if I can ask a question, is that information confidential in the contract with the proponent of what the value is? Or perhaps Ms. Lay might be able to answer.
Ms. Lay?
Through Mr. Mayor, financial information was included in the business plan that was advertised to community, but I can't recall whether it would have gone down to that level of detail.
I'll withdraw that question then, Mr Mayor. Don't want
You
to...
could probably get that information from Mr Vanderlyn, if you really need it.
I guess the next question is, what's the exact status of the of Area 3? Is it actually owned by Mr DeMol?
Area 3 is contracted to Mr. DeMol to buy, so he's got a contract to buy the site from the city as per the sales and development agreement. So it's part of that agreement.
No. Like title's not transferred, but he owns
That's
it.
right.
In that case, to make this a viable motion, so the motion, councillors, is on page 319, I would have to delete item 1C from that, so to remove Area 3 from consideration.
No, you can amend that between now and next week, Councillor.
Yeah, I'm just checking if that's a reasonable approach.
No.
I guess it is. Next question relates to Area 2. So Area 2 appears also to impact on DeMol Group's legal rights. So in this case, it's not as far advanced. So there's no contract, is that right?
Mr Vanderlyn?
Area 2, on Area 2, there's a proponent that's got a first right of refusal to buy that land.
Okay, so I won't ask any more questions about that because I don't want us to get into the difficulty that we got into previously. So another question then is, if I make a slight change to my motion currently says that Council resolved to amend the Midland Oval Master Plan. If I were to change that to report on amending the Midland Oval Master Plan, that would mean that we are not committing to make this change. We are asking for further investigation. Would that mean that we could consider Area 2 in the motion?
I would suggest it's your motion, Councillor. You can change it any way you want.
That's right, Mr Mayor, but I'm seeking advice from the experts.
Well.
Mr Mayor, to change Area 2 or to make a modification to the master plan in relation to the Area 2 shown on that diagram will have some legal implications on the current right of first refusal that has been granted on that site. So the exact implications will have to go back to our legal advisors and determine what that implication would be.
Okay.
But there will certainly be implications.
Okay, thank you. In that case, Mr Mayor, I'll just notify you that I will change my motion along those lines to move it to a report on amending the Midland Oval Master Plan and to delete Part 1C.
Just amend it, send it through whenever it's done, Councillor.
Well, I'm just letting you know that I'm making those small changes. Thank you. That's all my questions.
No others, councillors? Okay, we don't need to withdraw any of those. So that takes us now to the Executive Manager of Stakeholder Relations. Ms Lay, you're up, and you have 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, C1.1 and C1.8.
Happy to take any questions, Mr Mayor.
Any questions of Ms Lay, councillors? Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, my question, Ms Lay, is regarding the mayoral dinner. And I'd just like to ask how much has been spent on the mayoral dinner for next year so far?
Through you, Mr Mayor, no expenditure has been undertaken at this stage.
Thank you.
Councillor Johnson.
Oh, thanks, Mr Mayor. My question's about C1.1, which is the City Policy on LGA Section 5.5, payments to employees. Just reading the report, Mr Mayor, through you to Ms Lay, it says here that the Act requires the local government to prepare a policy in relation to employees, but we've only got a management practice. Is that right?
Through you, Mr Mayor, Council has delegated that function through to the CEO, so the internal version of a policy is called a management practice.
Okay, thank you. I think the motion is still valid then. Thank you.
Councillor Richardson.
Another question for Ms Lay, thanks. Just in regard to the Mayor's dinner, although no money's been paid towards that dinner for next year, are there any contracts in place for next year with suppliers?
Mr Mayor, I believe we have a catering contract which is set over 2 or 3 years.
question then. So if that contract is standing for next year and it's cancelled, what would the payment or deficit of the outstanding be?
Mr Mayor, I'll take that on notice, but from memory, when we cancelled the mayoral dinner several months ago, I don't believe that we had a fee to pay to the contractor.
Any further questions, Ms Lay?
Yeah, just a further question about the dinner. I noticed I've read somewhere that it's $347 a head is the cost. I'm just wondering, although a breakdown has been given, it seems if you were to look at, say, the various hotels in the area, they can do functions for far less. I'm just wondering why. So a typical sort of three-course dinner function in, say, a local hotel will be about $60 to $70 a head, but this is, I'm told, $347. Why is there such a difference?
Mr Mayor, I don't have the cost per person breakdown in front of me. It would include things like entertainment, decorations of the hall, gifts, centrepieces, the catering, beverages, wait staff. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I think Councillor Johnson, you might have got that from a Facebook post that quoted there were 150 people there last year. I think there was significant more than that, wasn't there, Councillor Ms Lay? Councillor Calano?
I'm curious about the gifts. What were the gifts that were given last year?
I don't recall we did.
Well, we didn't have a mayoral dinner this year. Last year,
yeah, sorry.
I think we cancelled it last year. In previous years, we have had small gifts, things like chocolates,
wine,
biscuits.
We didn't have any last year. Councillor Johnson?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. So if I didn't read that in a report, what is the approximate cost per head?
Ms Lay?
Well, Mr Mayor, in previous years the budget has been $50,000 and I would have to confirm the number of attendees. I don't have that information to hand.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Colley?
Through you, Mayor, I appreciate the current objectives of the dinner is to acknowledge the partnerships the city has and engage with key stakeholders. I was just wondering if there's any thought of any other means we could potentially do that or broaden it to include the broader community.
Ms Lay?
Mr Mayor, I believe the guest list of the Mayor does include community representatives as well as politicians, business people.
The question comes about as it was raised in an email to myself and probably other councillors. I'm just interested to know whether there was ever considered there's other means to achieve the same end, possibly by spending the same amount of money, I'm not sure.
Mr Mayor, that's really a council decision.
Yep.
That's the way they've done it in the past, and you've had other similar functions in the past, going back years ago, retiring councillors' dinners, other types of functions. It's really up to council to make a decision what they want to do and how they want to do it, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Further questions of Ms Lay? Okay, any of those items to be withdrawn, councillors, obviously with the exception of C 1.1 and 1.8? None. Okay, takes us to Executive Manager Operations. Mr Coaten with 13.4, 4.1, 4.2 and C 1.5. Mr Coaten.
Yes, have you taken any questions, Mr Mayor?
Councillor Kiley.
First question relates to item 4.1, the closure of the pedestrian access way. I refer to page 231 for councillors to look at. I'll just get there myself. Jim, it refers to resident number 4 or objector number 4 talks about putting a pathway in between from Maguire Avenue East right through to Brockmill Avenue. I'm not sure if that's at all possible, but I was interested to hear staff thoughts on whether if we were to close the public access way, that's a possibility at all. He was suggesting from 46 Maguire Avenue through to Brockmill Avenue. Is that something?
Yeah, that actually runs through the school. It would run through Education Department land, so the city doesn't have control of that land.
So would that be something we could propose as an alternative, or we'd have to approach the Department of Education for something like that?
Yeah, it would be something the Department of Education would have to approve.
But in effect, we'd probably be just opening up another public access way as well. Would that be an appropriate statement? I mean, are we creating another problem in a different area? Is that what's your feeling on that?
Potentially. I mean, it wouldn't, in the true sense of the word, it wouldn't be a public access way, because we would really be requiring the school to provide access through their land 24/7, which I doubt that they would agree to.
Thank you. Follow on, Mayor, if I could, on the item 4.2, the permanent closure of a portion of Victoria Road, Bennett Springs, on page 239. Jim, I went to visit one of the residents nearby in opposition to this closure. I'm wondering if you could look on page 243 and maybe give some indication if it's possible to get access to that piece of land from Sun Place rather than from Niltonia Lane, because if we're giving up a portion of Victoria Road, then I don't see any issue then with it going allowing a sort of laneway access along Victoria Road to that actual block.
I'm not sure I quite understand the question, but the staff are recommending that this application be refused, so we're recommending that the road not be closed.
I appreciate that, but I might have an alternative, and I'll probably just flag an alternative for the moment and discuss with staff. Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Johnston? Oh, sorry, hang on. Councillor Lucas, you were first. Sorry.
Thank you. I'll just go back to the previous item, public access way between Brockman and Bailey. I went and saw the objector from McAllister Way, who made a personal approach to me as well. I informed her of the proposal about putting a public access way through the school was fraught with danger. First of all, we'd most probably have to buy land off the school if they were willing to sell it. You'd just transfer any issues from the current public access way to that, and if she then suggested that the school might just donate the land, I said if it's still in their ownership, they'd be responsible for any legal issues if someone fell over it, it's not lit, etc. So she's fully understands now, and she didn't withdraw her objection, but she understood that people living on Bailey Close have more rights than she does, who supported its closure, than her objecting because she only uses it occasionally.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, my question's about C1.5, Tui Gardens. Thank you. Thank the officers for their report. The question I've got is, the motion leaves open as to how we would actually operate such a community vegetable garden. Would it be reasonable for a community association to take it over and just run it themselves and obtain grants?
That's what normally happens with community gardens. They are run by the community.
Okay, thanks. And the report also points out a factor that I hadn't considered, that is the availability of water. Is there likely to be a water supply at Tui Gardens?
Staff haven't investigated that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr Cotton. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Kiley.
Through Mayor, Jim, I'll just go back to the public access way closure. I note the number of utilities that are currently that run under the public access way. I just want to be clear that the cost for those relocations of the power cables, the Telstra's lines and the like, that cost has been fully made known to the people who would possibly take over the cost of that, of removing them or relocating them?
They have been advised that they are responsible for all the costs. I'm not sure if the level of detail of the costs they've been provided with, but they have been made aware they are responsible for all costs.
But if it comes in at such a figure like $200,000, $300,000 or the like, or something which is unaffordable, would they then have the opportunity, if council makes a decision to close the access way and they're left with a bill that they can't pay, I just want to be sure that they're fully aware that they would be...
The decision before council isn't whether to close it or not, it's whether to support closure, and then it becomes a matter for the state government to actually approve closure, and they wouldn't do that unless the money had been paid. So the decision before council is just whether or not to agree to forward it on to the state government and saying that the council endorses closure.
And at what point would the applicants know the full cost?
Mr. Curtin?
Oh, they may know it already, but it would be it would obviously be before closure, so it's not going to be closed. They get a bill that they can't pay. The state government wouldn't close it unless the money had been paid.
I just want to know if they decide not to pay that money, where that leaves council when we've made a decision to support closure.
Well, it wouldn't close. It would remain open.
Councillor Catalano.
Just on that, about it being forwarded to the state government. So what actually happens once the state government gets it, and why does the state government have to make the final decision?
Mr. Curtin?
Yeah, it is. The land is owned by the state government. It's vested in the city, so it goes to the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage to dispose of that land.
Same councillor with any road reserve. We don't own the land. We've only got use of the land.
Any further? Councillor McNamara.
Just a quick one, Mr. Cotton, with regard to page 230, where it says there's a legend over there on the right-hand side. It's a little bit confusing. I understand exactly what it means, but we use the block numbers and we use the actual address in both cases. So could we make it clear in future when we're doing this that they correspond with each other?
Yes, I apologise for that. We will do that.
Thank you.
The lot numbers and you understand?
Sorry, which item was that? Same item. Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Any further questions of Mr. Coaten? No. Okay. Sorry. Yes, Councillor Scanlon.
Thank you. I might be jumping ahead, but it's under Executive Manager for Operations. Number 9.1 in the supplementary confidential agenda. I just want to let you know that I don't have that supplementary agenda, and I'd like to perhaps ask a question about it. I'm used to just looking on diligent boards. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I can come back to that. Okay, the only thing we've got for the Executive Manager Wellbeing is a petition, which will come to Council for a report, I would guess. No. Mr. Bishop? Well, that is a report. Is there any questions of Mr. Bishop? Yep, go for it.
Yeah, thank you. How come this came about, given that, you've got the Midland Junction Arts thing happening there? I mean, how has this petition arisen? What's been the sort of driving... Why aren't the people, the petitioners, catered for down at MJAC?
The lady concerned has been in discussions with both the state and federal government and local members of the parliament, both federally and state, in relation to building or setting up a performing arts space in Midland. It's something she's quite passionate about, has been for some time, and she recently has put forward a petition which is covered in that item on page 15.
There's no opportunity for her to set that up down at MJAC?
Yes, could be, but the cost is somewhere between $25 and $30 million, and it's not something that council has taken on board in the past or has recommended that we proceed with.
We're going to add to that, Mr. Bishop?
No, Mr. Mayor, as the CEO has highlighted, I think the ambition of the petitioners is for a significantly larger performing arts facility than what we have at MJAC. I think in the report or in the officer comment, I think it says about 142 people in the main auditorium there. So they're looking to basically, they see an opportunity in the railway sheds, one of those very large sheds. The volume of that space could be converted into a large performing arts theatre, basically, which obviously would involve, but will require significant investment from someone.
Okay, and just to follow on, but I was under the understanding that those sheds are pretty much all taken up or been sold or something like that. Can you clarify that?
Some of the sheds are, some of them are under contract to Development WA, but certainly over a number of years there have been different proposals for those sheds and it's changed over time. But it's really a matter for them to approach Development WA and put their proposal to them in regards any opportunities with any of those buildings that exist at the moment.
Councillor Carley.
A question to the CEO, if I could, probably best person to answer it. It relates to item C 1.3, the clean-up of the Dayton Shopping Centre site. It says that it needs an absolute majority vote required. I gather that's to do with affecting the 2021 budget. Is that correct?
Well, we need a budget allocation, yes, to go and do it, yes.
Is there any way you could suggest the motion could be changed so that we only required a simple majority rather than an absolute majority?
If you want it done immediately, that's your problem. You need an absolute majority of council to get it to change the budget, current year's budget, to get it done. But if it's on next year's budget, then you can. It's just a simple majority.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, councillors, thank you. The next one, we've only got the CEO and the Manager of Governance, which is C 1.6, 1.7. If there's any questions of Ms Albright or the CEO on those two items. None. Okay. Now so councillors, now we've completed on the list. Before we go to confidential items, any further items to be withdrawn? I've got Councillor Kiley possibly with 4.2. Councillor Zanino with 3.6 and 13.3.
I might just say I'll wait to hear from Mr Russell about the Harrow Road proposal. We have the trees and that before I make up my mind about that one.
Yep. Councillor Kiley.
A possible slight amendment to item 4.1, the public access way in Beachborough.
You'll relay that with staff before you decide, I guess. Anyone else? Councillor, any other items to be withdrawn from that part of the list? Okay, that takes us to the confidential items, so I will need a motion to go behind closed doors. Move Councillor Parry.